so much for your company. I am Pius Kojobaka. Looking at our stories, Ghana's economy expanded by 4.5% in July 2025. This is according to the latest monthly indicator of economic growth released by the Ghana Statistical Service. The figure represents a slowdown from the 8.3% growth recorded in July 2024, signaling a moderation in the pace of economic activity despite continued expansion across key sectors. Here's more.
The monthly indicator of economic growth is a volume index that tracks changes in Ghana's economic activity on a monthly basis. The indicator is published at both the aggregate level for the entire economy and across the agriculture, industry and services sectors. According to the government statistician, Dr. Alhassan Idrisu, Ghana's economy expanded by 4.5% in July 2025.
Ghana's economy, as measured by the MEG, in July 2025, in terms of growth, was 4.5%, larger than it was a year ago, in simple terms. While this marks continued growth and it indicates expansion in the economy by 4.5% for July 2025, it also signals a slowdown if you compare it to the MEG figure we recorded in July 2024, which is 8.3%. Below trend growth in July 2025 mainly reflects lower output in the petroleum sector, as well as slower activity in accommodation and food services, health and social care, and manufacturing.
Dr. Idrisu further highlighted the performance of the various sectors that contributed to the overall growth.
If you take the agriculture sector, the sector recorded a year-on-year growth of 8% in July 2025. Crops continue to be the engine of growth within the agriculture sector, with the upward trend reflecting sustained gains in food crop production across the country. The industry sector continues an upward trend from 94 index in July 2023 to 111.2 in July 2024. Yes, and this increases just slightly to 101.3 in July 2025, and that's the reason why we saw an industrial growth of only 0.1%. But the services sector continues its steady upward trend, rising from an index of 98 in July 2023 to 102 in July 2024 and reaching 108.5 in July 2025.
The Ghana Statistical Service explained that the indicators used in compiling the MEG are consistent with those employed in the quarterly GDP system.
But why did the industry sector trail behind when it comes to its contribution to the overall growth rate? And we want to explore that angle. Joining us via Zoom is the president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stefan Bezan Abbas. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much, sir, for agreeing to speak to us here on Business Live. Are you concerned the industry sector which you represent contributed the least to the overall growth rate by way of the numbers, with a marginal figure of 0.9% compared with what services and agri sectors contributed?
I am very, very much concerned. As the president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, it's a worrying trend. And so it is. To even know that our industrial sector did not grow that much as compared to other sectors is really pathetic. It means that the government has taken its eye off the ball of the industry. We know the effect of industrialization, the positive effect of industrialization. And for us to experience such a marginal growth is not good for an economy like Ghana. We need to create jobs. And if the government has anything to do, more especially in this country, it is to pay attention to industry. So sometimes it's sad to know that certain conditions that are supposed to go in favor of industry are no more going their way. So we would want to entreat the government that certain announcement that it made that has affected industrialization and the support to industry, government should look at it again. We have mentioned that we have actually met the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry on this matter. So we want the government to reconsider that decision of cutting certain support to industry, because we cannot accept that industry is not growing, because it is industry that creates the jobs for our economy, for the youth to get jobs to do.
All right, let's be specific here. Stefan, let's be more specific with this. So what, in your view, may have accounted for that marginal growth figures being recorded?
Okay, so, I believe that a lot of concentration has gone on gold being a strong backbone of the economy. And therefore, a lot of attention is being given to it, and more specifically to the gold board, and leaving so many other sectors. But you see, the negative effect of that is there. And then the negative effect of also not supporting industry is also there. So let us rather concentrate on supporting industry, by making sure that at least access to capital is there, cheaper capital is there for people to be able to access it, and at a cheaper cost. That is very important. And so for me, I think the concentration has left industry to other sectors, and more especially on gold. And that is not really helping the economy.
Okay, let me understand this further. What are the implications of the industry sector's slow growth for employment, for example, investment, and of course the overall economic development in Ghana? And what strategies can be deployed to mitigate these risks?
First of all, the negative effect is on greater unemployment. That is there, and it's rippling effects. What it also means is that we are going to import more for consumption, while we suffocate local industry. We need to grow this economy by making sure that production goes up. But if you don't do that, and then we are encouraging more import, then we are also collapsing industry. So that is one of the things that we need to look at. These are negative things that will affect the economy in the long run, in the very long run. So, and then you see that all these boys will be going on the Galamsey side, of which you're also fighting. So attention has to be paid to industry. Very, very much so. Attention has to be paid to industry.
All right.
And it saddens my heart that we have to face this and talk about this always. The government should look at industry very much.
But we want to make progress with that. So how can policymakers and stakeholders like yourself work together to create a more conducive business environment, which of course will stimulate growth in the industry sector?
Okay. So first of all, access to cheap capital is very important. Access to cheap capital is very important. The government should not crowd the business sector out of the market, out of the capital market. That's one. In the very recent times, we experienced instability in electricity a little bit, but that is to the minimal. Then also, import issues at the ports, duties on raw materials are also escalating. We are expecting that with these IMF issues and the alignment of the VAT and all of that, some of these things would have come down, especially even with the COVID levy. But all of these things are still there. So some of these things are affecting the industry. So we cannot negate the fact that these things are conditions that the government has to look at and consider very much for industrialization.
Very well.
It's very important. Industry has to grow.
All right. Finally, before you go, I know you have concerns about Ghana and China's zero tariff trade partnership deal signed by President Mahama in the course of the week. Why are you concerned about that?
Okay, so, Pius, my concern is its benefit to Ghanaians. For me, in the larger sense, it has not benefited the ordinary Ghanaian and the ordinary industrialists.
How?
In the sense that China as a market is not a market where the ordinary consumer, the producer, is basically exposed to. So if the tariff was such that equipment coming to Ghana from China were tariff free, then that would have been positive for us. But that being said, we don't have a lot of details about this agreement. We hear that it's now going to be signed and all the fine tunes, all the dotted lines and T's are going to cross for us to do better. But from the onset, as I got the announcement, I am looking at a situation where it is rather the reverse of import of equipment for industrialization, for agriculture. That should be tariff free. That should be tariff free.
Okay.
So we are waiting to understand that because export to China and import from China on the reverse, China is higher. Import from China is higher. So there should be negative zero tariff on import on equipment and industry for the Ghanaian market.
All right.
That way we can produce more, be able to transform our natural resources into consumable goods.
All right.
Rather than saying that we are exporting cocoa, oil, and all of that. Yes, that is the macroeconomic side. But for the microeconomic side, I think that it should be on the reverse, that import of equipment and tools for industry should be zero tariff.
President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stefan Bezanabas, thank you so much for joining the discussion here on Business Live. And want to stay along on the economy because Head of Finance at Merban Capital, Nelson Kwagbaji, has cautioned that inadequate domestic revenue mobilization could lead to a budget deficit. He noted that weak revenue performance could derail Ghana's debt to GDP ratio of 55% by the end of 2025 and pose a risk to the stability of the city. His comments come in the wake of the International Monetary Fund's projection that Ghana's debt to GDP ratio will reach 59.1% by the end of the year.
We are not able to raise enough domestic revenue. It means that you will certainly declare budget deficits. And once you have a budget deficit, you have to go and borrow to finance the deficit. And so one of the fundamental risks has to do with inadequate domestic revenue mobilization. As I did indicate, a certain report released by the Ghana Statistical Service on the Bank of Ghana shows that GRA missed their target by 5%. However, expenditure was contained to the tune of about 14%. And so if we are not able to raise enough domestic revenue, that may pose a serious threat to the projected target. Then also, the stability of the Ghanaian cedi is also another key risk area. For now, we are enjoying relative stability because we have enough effects to support the Ghanaian currency. However, if the currency begins to depreciate, what it technically means is that the external component, I mean the foreign debt component of our total debt stock will increase, and that may also, comes on board to increase the debt stock, and which means that we may not be able to meet the target.
So listening to or watching Business Live with me, Pius Kojo Baka. We have more for you shortly. Hello again, welcome back to Business Live. To one of our leading stories, which of course will be of great concern to you, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana has described the expected reduction in fuel prices as a big relief to Ghanaians in the coming weeks. Now, fuel prices are expected to be reduced by more than 17% from today, influenced by cedi's appreciation and declining prices of crude and finished petroleum products on the international market. And Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Consumers Ghana, that's Duncan Amwa, says transport operators should not push for an increase in fares. He joins us via Zoom for us to have a conversation on that. And Duncan, I'm grateful you could stay on to speak to us. What specific factors are driving the expected 17% reduction in fuel prices?
Pius, we are not probably getting 17. It could be way less than 17. Let's put that on record.
Okay, to what margin?
That would also be because just about 2-3% is expected. That it could have been a bit higher, but then again, you have a 2-week period or a 2-week window during which you saw the cedi lose grounds at some point, and then the cedi gaining grounds at some point. And so it's a mixed bag. The other good thing is that you saw some significant cuts in international market price rates. And so that could also give you some reduction. But overall, averagely, you should be doing about 2-3% across board for most of the pumps. Like I indicated, this comes at a good time such that whatever warning or signals that you picked with the transport operators who had given an indication that if we allowed fuel to go up again, they were simply going to be left with no choice but to increase transport fares. I think that this would let them stay their prices. This would stabilize the market for some time so as not to burden the Ghanaian commuter who also depend on their service. So it's good news for the transport operator, but it's even bigger news for the commuter or the person who depends on the public transport system, because this would mean that their transport fares could at least stay for a while without any upward adjustments.
All right, so in effect, we aren't going to see any increase in transport fares.
I doubt that would be the case. I continue to engage the transport operators, particularly the GPRTU. I understood where they were coming from. If you recall, sometime back in May, we had all requested that they reduce transport fares by some 15%. Some did, some didn't. But for those who did, if you have a situation where we are getting back to pre-January 2025 levels of 14.9, whilst you have some of the products already at 14, diesel had gone as much, and petrol was also following around 13. And so if we're going to get back to those levels of 14.9, and you had requested some of them to reduce their fares by as much as 15%, then it would only be fair that you allow them to go back to the pre-January 2025 levels so that they are not inconvenienced and then their operations could be sustainable. And so now that they may not be getting to the 14.9 level, and it's rather going to come down to maybe 14 or some 13 region, I think that they will be able to stay their current transport rates or level so that Ghanaians don't have to be overburdened.
Executive Secretary.
I don't expect transport fares to go up.
All right, that's fine. Thank you so much, Duncan Amoah, Executive Secretary of COPEC. I truly appreciate your time speaking to us here on Business Live. You're still watching Business Live with me, Pius Kojobaka. Quickly before we wrap up, the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunication is making a strong case for cross-border interoperability to deepen regional digital integration and support business growth across Africa. More in this report.
So today's forum has really encouraged a lot of those discourse around how the Bank of Ghana is going to support industry with, digital assets, legislations, as well as, credit scoring platforms that allows us to really know our customers and also improve how financial services is delivered in Ghana. I think Ghana also has a unique opportunity where, because of the level of interoperability, we should be maturing to get to a point where we're having cross-border interoperability also becoming a priority for us as a country. And members of the Digital Chamber of Ghana, which includes, Mobile Money Limited, as well as Telecel Cash, G Money, AT Money, and ZPay, we all work collaboratively together to ensure that we are shaping the policy landscape, and the conversations, have already been going on. As a chamber, we're seeking to ensure that we support our members to have those conversations across the various regulators in the space and have, a forum that ensures that we progress the industry to the benefit of consumers in Ghana.
That's our package by way of Business Live. I am Pius Kojobaka. Let's connect at 8 p.m.